What's good, YouTube? This is the Only Big Green Yu-Gi-Oh! Again, back with another deck profile. And this deck profile is the PACMAN deck profile that I was telling you guys about in the Jowgen deck list. And this could also be worded as like Chain Burn, before Chain Burn existed. So I guess you could kind of call it Chain Burn for GOAT format, but most people is going to know it as PACMAN. So start off. Run 3 Lava Golems. I thought about cutting him down to 2, but the only reason why I don't cut him down to 2 is if my opponent drops a Jinzo on me, it's virtually, I have to scoop at that point because half of the deck, or almost half of the deck, relies on like just trap cards in general. So that's the reason why I run 3. And also BLS can be a bit of an issue as well with how he can attack twice. So I just use it as like a Kaiju before Kaijus existed. Plus, I mean, it does burn for 1,000 damage, which is very nice. Next up, the reason why they call it PACMAN, the C for PACMAN, which is the camel. I was running 3, but I felt like that was way too much, so I cut him down to 2, and 2 is perfect. His effect is, whenever he's flip face up, you draw a card, and it has to be like flip summoned to draw a card. Your opponent just can't ram into it and you draw a card. You actually have to flip him face up to draw the card. That's the reason why I cut it down to 2. But his other effect is, while he's face up, you can flip him face down into the defense position. So a good way of getting this card off would be activating a Swords and then setting him, or setting a Threatening Roar, or like a Waboku and then setting him, so that way your opponent's reluctant to attack or they just can't attack at all. Next up, we play 2 Stealth Birds, which virtually the same effect as Deslakota, but instead of drawing, you burn for 1,000 damage. And the good thing about him is his defense is actually pretty high, and he can bait out Exarion, where people like to -4 and abuse that with Exarion. You can bait that out as well. And a good thing about these is they're not flip effects, so if they Noblemen of Crossout, you don't have to banish the others, which is nice. Next up, one of my favorite monsters in this deck, 3 Death Koala. I run these guys because, again, it's 1800, so Exarion can't really get over that. They have to pretty much just go into like an Air Knight to get over that if they want to do piercing damage. And he burns 400 damage for each card in your opponent's hand. The only downside about this card is he is a flip effect monster, so if they knock him, you pretty much just have to say bye-bye to the rest of your koalas in your deck. On to the last flip effect in the deck. You run 1 Mask of Darkness. I run this over the Magician of Faith because he's virtually Magician of Faith just for trap cards. So there's really no point in running Magician of Faith because there's really only a few spells you're going to want to get back, and that's like your Pot of Greed or your Graceful Charity or your Limit Area B. Next up, you play 1 Sangan for searching because your entire deck is searchable just off of Sangan. There's only like a few cards that aren't searchable. The engine I'm fixing to get into, you can't really search 2 cards from, and then the Lava Golems you can't search. But other than that, your entire deck is searchable off of this card. Here's one of the cards I was talking about that isn't searchable, Reflect Bounder. I would be playing more, but Reflect Bounder was only at 1, which sucks. Because if this card wasn't only at 1 in GOAT format, I definitely would be playing 3 of these guys. But what he is, he's virtually a magic cylinder on wheels, which is cool. And he's a 17k beat stick if you ever want to ram into something with him. Next up, we play a spicy tech of mine. We're getting into the spells as well with this. The Warrior Engine. I play a slight Warrior Engine just so that way I have ways to out BLS. I have ways to out Jinzo and Chaos Sorcerer. Problematic cards, and like I can get rid of Air Knight and stuff. And sometimes, like if the Thousand Eyes are strict will give me issue, I can out that as well with this engine, which is real nice. And then on to the spell cards that actually matter, the Graceful Charity and the Pot of Greed. Without these 2 cards legal in GOAT just wouldn't be as fun as it would be now. But I thank the Lord that we have these cards. Too bad that they're banned today, but it's kind of a good thing that they are banned today. But of course, they're self-explanatory. They're just draw cards. I play 2 Scapegoat. just for stalling. That's really the only purpose of that card, is so I can wait around longer, and it takes my opponent like more times. It takes my opponent more turns to get into my life points because of this, or it just forces them to just straight up summon their Air Knight right then and there to poke at the tokens. I play 1 swords because swords was only at 1. If it was more than 1, I would probably play more than swords. But it's, again, like a scapegoat, just for stalling. And then the best spell card in the deck, apart from the Graceful Charities and stuff, 2 Limit Area B. Since this is GOAT format, MST was at 1, Heavy Storm was at 1, Giant Trunade was at 1, and Cold Wave was at 1. So there's really no way of outing this card in GOAT format across from like the Dust Tornadoes and the cards that I mentioned. And not a lot of people I notice are like maining Dust Tornadoes, at least the people that I've played up against. Most people that I've played up against, they normally only run like 1 MST and Heavy Storm, and that's it. That's their only out other than like the Breaker. So if this card hits the board, it's very, very hard for your opponent to overcome this. And most of the times when I win, it's because of this card. If you guys don't know what this does, though, pretty much it's just all level 4 and higher monsters on the field are switched to defense position. So, like, you can, like, tribute over a Jinzo and something to give them a Lava Golem. And because of this, that Lava Golem's going to have to stay in defense. So they're just taking 1,000 damage. But that's, like, a cool, neat interaction with this card. And other cool interactions with this card is having this card on the board and something like something like a Stealth Bird and Death Lakota, because they really can't do nothing to out this. So each turn, since they're level 3s, you can just like flip, draw, reflip. Or with Stealth Bird, you can just like flip, burn, and then set again. So it's really cool. Onto the traps. 3 Just Desert. It's a staple in any type of burn deck. That in history, it's been a staple in any type of burn deck ever since this card's come out. Burn 500 for each monster on your opponent's side of the field. Secret Barrel, another staple. If you're playing Burn or Pac-Man in general, this is just... Most of these burn cards that I'm playing are staples, so there's really no explanation in them. Ceasefire, because it was only at 1. This card is game-breaking in GOAT for the fact that whenever it's activated, all face-down monsters on the field go into face-up defense position, and no flip effects are activated at that time, which is real dirty. And the fact that you only play 1 flip effect monster in this entire deck, well, my bad, only 2 flip effect monsters, your Death Koala and your Mask of Darkness, half the time this isn't even going to hurt you. 1 ring, because it was only at 1, and self-explanatory. And the good thing about ring in this deck is, unlike other GOAT decks where people just play ring because it's a staple, this actually has synergy with this deck where it can help you, like, provide your win con, which is burn your opponent. 1 Magic Cylinder, because it was only at 1. This card's self-explanatory. It's a staple in every burn deck in history. A cool tech of mine, 3 Nightmare Wheel. I might cut the 3rd one down. Chances are I probably will cut the 3rd one down. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'll have to think on it. This might be a 3rd camel or something here soon. But definitely at least run 2 Nightmare Wheel, because this card is virtually Fiendish Chain before Fiendish Chain. The only thing is, the opponent does still get its effects and stuff with it. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll use this card to bait out a Breaker pop. So whenever they summon their Breaker, they call Priority Counter. I'll chain this on the Breaker summon. So it virtually forces them to waste their counter to just pop this. But if they don't have something like that to pop it, your opponent takes 500 damage during each of your standby phases. Also, another cool combo is have this set face down and then like tribute a monster for Lava Golem. And then what you do is when it gets to their standby phase, you can activate this and then target the Lava Golem you gave them. So during your turn, they're taking 500, and during their turn, they're taking 1,000. So that really adds up super quick. And then for the last of the traps, 3 threatening, 1 Waboku. The reason why I'm only playing 1 Waboku, cause normally in burn decks I like to go 3 Waboku, 1 threatening. The reason why I'm going 3 threatening and 1 Waboku is if you have a Waboku set and if your opponent is smart and they know that you've got the Des Lakota set face down, or they know that you've got the Stealth Bird face down, if your opponent's smart, if you activate Waboku, they can just ram into the thing. It won't die, and you won't take no damage, but the problem is you won't get to draw a card next turn. So that's the reason why I run 3 Threatening Roars over Waboku, because if you have this set and you activate a Threatening Roar, your opponent can't even attack it this turn. But in any other case, I would be running 3 Waboku and 1 Threatening. And that was PACMAN, guys. Or you could call it Chain Burn, but most people is going to know it as PACMAN from this time, because this was I forgot when Chain Strike came out, but Chain Strike wasn't a card yet. I want to say Cyberkinetic Revolution is when Chain Strike came out with the D-Walls and the Cyber Dragons, but I'm not for sure. I might be wrong. You guys can do research on your own time, though. I do have more GOAT decks on the way. If you guys want to see my standard GOAT build, because I still haven't uploaded a standard GOAT build, out of all the GOAT decks that I've been working on here lately, and out of the GOAT decks that's on my channel, I don't even have a standard GOAT deck. So I definitely need to bring that to you guys. And there's a spicy GOAT deck that I've been working on, and only the people that know me knows this. If you guys don't know what Opticlops is, I might have it in one of my deck boxes. Let me see if I've got it, because I've been working on this deck. Let me get this card out real fast. Is it in here? Sweet, it is. It revolves around this card, Opticlops. And I'm calling it Optic Control, or I'm going to call it Slate Warrior Control, or Hot As Control. But anyways, it's like a toolbox deck, but for Fiend cards. And it has some really spicy techs in it, and I've already tested it out. It does have issues up against Standard GOAT, and it has issues up against Beast Down, but up against the other GOAT decks, it doesn't have an issue at all. But I'm still working on it and getting things together, but once I get a build that can actually compete with GOAT through thick and thin and compete with Beast Down, I'm definitely going to upload it. Just right now, I still have tweaking to do with it, because it can lose on occasion to them decks. Anyways, this is the Only Big Green Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Johnny, and I'll see you guys later.